What's going on, guys? In this video, I'm going to show you how to create this trade tracker so then you can make awesome portfolio trackers like this one. Now, if you were watching this video and you came over to this video to learn how to do the code update, that's exactly what this video is. It's a major code update so you can input every single trade you've made and then come up with this result. And the results I'm talking about are these three cells, these three columns right here. It will generate all of your tickers that you currently have, all the stocks that you currently have in your portfolio, the right amount of shares, and the correct purchase price. Now, the problem that we had in this video, this tutorial, is the purchase price was actually wrong when you sold a stock. So this is what I meant. If you were to go and say you bought, how about Verizon, okay? So if you went and bought Verizon, say one share, I don't know what Verizon is right now, we'll say $50, right? So that's going to cost you $50. And then if you were to go and sell Verizon, so here we go, you would put in sell one share, right? And maybe you made a $5 profit. Now it's $55. Now Verizon shouldn't be in your positions, which it's not, it's gone. And if we were actually to get rid of this right here, let's delete this just to show you. See that? We have Verizon buy one share, $50. There it is. Verizon's now there, one share, $50. Okay? So then you were to go in and log a sell. So you sold Verizon one share, say $55. So you made a $5 profit on the trade. And now it's gone, right? It's not in your portfolio positions anymore. It's not down here. But the problem we had, say then you were to buy Verizon again at a later date, right? And say just one share, and you bought it for, say, $25. It went down or up. We'll pretend it goes up. So you buy it for $100. Your new position should say $100, right? But the problem that we were having was it would still average this old price of $50. So then it would end up being, it would say that our purchase price was $75 because it was taking the average of the two buys. The code did not realize, hey, we sold this one, so we no longer want to average this. Well, this new code fixes that, and here you go. So it should say 100. Boom, right there, 100. So what is this code doing? It is doing something called FIFO, first in, first out. This is how most brokers work. What that means is as you're buying stocks, say you buy 5 shares of a stock, that's $10. So we'll actually, you guys just need to understand this really quick and we'll dive into the code. So say you buy 5 shares and they're $10 each, 5, right? So here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's how much each share was worth. So there, because you bought 5 shares, all worth $10. Then say a couple months go by and you buy another 5 shares, okay, for $15 because the stock went up. Now most brokers, here's how most brokers are set up. Say you wanted to sell a couple of shares. Well, which shares is it going to sell? Is it going to sell these or these? Well, most brokers are set up with FIFO, first in, first out, which means the first share you bought, which was this one, is going to be the first one to be sold. So it will sell this. Let's say you sell 2 shares and you sell that, okay? So now they're gone. A couple more months pass by. Maybe you want to sell another 4 shares. So 1, 2, 3, 4. See how that gets, they go down the line like that. Then you want to buy another share. Maybe the price is, $20 now. So that's how it works. As you sell shares, it's going to sell the first share in the queue that you bought. So it's going down like that. It was very hard to figure out this code, but thanks to a couple of my friends, Joe and Anthony, we were able to solve it. They're coders. They know a lot more than I do, but they were able to solve it, and we now have this awesome code that does this for us. So then this is now fixed, and you could create amazing trackers because you have this data. And then all of this is just basic stuff. This is just thrown in Google Finance. Google Finance, just a couple of multiplying and dividing to figure out all of this. So then you could come up with an end result like this. So let's dive right into the code. But before that, guys, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It took a while to create this code for you guys, and I really appreciate that. It helps boost the algo so more people could see this video and learn about this awesome code so everyone can have great portfolio trackers in Google Sheets. And if you don't have the time to write the code, you could actually go to my Patreon and support me that way. If you subscribe to that, and then you could just download all of this stuff without taking the hassle out of the day of creating something like this. Or if you just want to subscribe to support me, I really appreciate that as well. Let's jump over to a clean slate. We're not even going to touch anything yet. We're going to dive right into the script editor because, guys, this is going to be pretty lengthy. I'm not going to lie. It's well over 50 lines of code, but guys, we're going to walk through step by step. I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible for you and explain everything along the way. And just in case you didn't know how I got to this, because I know I'm moving kind of fast, you go to Tools. You have to be in Google Sheets, okay? This will not work in Excel. Has to be in Google Sheets. You go to Tools, you go to Script Editor, okay? And then this is what will pop up. So the first thing we're going to type in is function generate trade. Okay, now you might notice G is lowercase and the T is capitalized. This is just how coding works in Google Sheets, which is kind of like JavaScript. Now I'm going to type in stock quant, comma, you can do a little space if you want to stay organized, stock price, comma, action. You could close that off. Then what you want to do is open a squiggly bracket, okay? And then you're going to hit enter. You're going to type in return, lowercase, not capitalized. Everything is case sensitive, guys. That is super important. Open another squiggly bracket. Hit enter again. We're now going to do shares, semicolon, stock quant, comma, then we want price, and that's not semicolon, that's colon, right? That's semicolon. We don't want semicolon. We want regular colon. So price is stock price, comma, action is action. And then right here, we want to add a semicolon after that. That is the first function we need. Very simple. Guys, remember, everything is case sensitive here, so make sure you don't have any of that messed up. This first function, we're going to have a total of 3 functions. We're already 1/3 of the way done. Not really, though. But this first function essentially is just going to help us down the line when we create our, our next couple of functions. They're going to be a little longer than this. But essentially what this is saying is this is generating our trade. When we call this generate trade function in our other functions, what's happening here is saying, hey, you're going to take these 3 things and this is what they're going to be. So anytime we're, calling shares or price or action, this is how we're going to want you to put it into play. And it will make a little more sense as we go further down the lines. But guys, remember, I'm not the biggest coder myself, so I'm also learning as well. But I think that really helps with me teaching because I can teach from a noob's standpoint. Someone that has no clue how to code, I hope I'm doing a good job teaching you. So we're going to do another function, okay? So you're going to type in function. You're going to hit space. You're going to spell function right. Make sure you have no spelling mistakes either, guys. A lot of you have emailed me your codes that haven't been working, and a lot of times it's just spelling mistakes. And I am one for spelling mistakes. I always make spelling mistakes. Awful speller. We're going to do generate FIFO. So this is going to be the function that creates that whole FIFO, first in, first out, that I was talking about. And what we're going to want in some parentheses is security, comma, actions, comma, quantity, comma, price. Okay, and then we are going to want to open squiggly bracket, hit enter, and we are going to type let portfolio equal new map. Open and close, and then you're going to hit semicolon. So pretty much what this is doing right here, this let portfolio, or even before that, we'll talk about the generate FIFO. This takes in the list on the history tab. So if we jump back to this is our history tab. So it's taking this list that we have created, and it's specifically taking in the ticker's actions, quantity, and price. And given this info, it returns currently owned tickers, the amount of shares, and its average price. So that means when I said currently owned, it is taking into account, okay, which ones did we sell? We need to make sure we don't count the ones that we already sold. So that's where this FIFO comes into play. But the next line that we're going to do, and I've noticed a lot of you guys have screwed this one up, so make sure you get this right. It's for open var space I equals 0. A lot of you will make that I into a 1. It's not a 1, it's an I. Okay, so double check that. Semicolon, I again is less than security dot length semicolon I, not 1, I plus plus. So this is a very popular function right here. Not function, this is a very popular line of code. And essentially what's happening is we're going to be looping through all the lines on the history page. That's what this one line is doing. So we're going to hit enter on that. And what are we going to be looping through? We need to make our inputs into something so we could use. So now we need to define our variables, right? So we're going to say let ticker, and this is what we're doing. This is how we're defining our variables with this let code, equal security, open bracket, the square bracket, I, okay, dot to string, open and close, semicolon. Then we're going to hit enter. And now we're going to do let action equal actions, open square bracket, I dot to string, open and close, quotation, semicolon, hit enter again, let stock quant equal number. Notice the N in number is capitalized. Quantity, open bracket, I, then go all the way to the end, semicolon, hit enter. One more variable, let stock price equal number, open quotations, price, open square bracket, I, and then one more semicolon, and then that's it. Now we have all of that defined. Guys, make sure the colors look the same on yours as well. So these should be blue, the map should be pink, numbers should be pink as well. Make sure that's all right just so you don't run into problems. But essentially what's happening here is we're just defining everything. So you can see stock quant, stock price, action, stock quant, stock price, action. What's happening is we're now defining what's going on in here. So that's how this function will be pulling from this function, how they're kind of communicating with each other. Again, I could get into all of that and try to explain it all, but we don't want this video to be super long. So the next line that we want to do, it's actually going to be one more let. You can do a space if you want. The reason why is, you know, it has its own separate little thing that I'll try to explain to you guys. Let trade equal generate trade. And then what we want is everything that's up here, the stock quant, stock price, action. So We're going to type in stock quant, stock price, and then action. Remember, guys, everything needs to be spelt right. You can't have any kind of syntax error. It's not going to work. But this right here creates a variable trade and sets it equal to the output of the function generate trade. So this, you see that? This is this. We're calling in this function right here. We're going to hit enter 2 more times, and we're going to type in if open quotation action, not quotation, open parentheses, action equals open quotation by a little space, and then what you want are these 2 straight lines. Okay? And then what we're going to type in is action dot to upper case open and close equal drip open squiggly bracket, and then we're going to hit enter. And what this little code right here is doing is if the action is buy or drip, so if we go back, if we see a drip or if we see a buy, it will insert the trade into this portfolio map that we're creating. Here's the portfolio map. So what's happening is it's going through the list. It's saying, oh, we got to buy. Okay, we're going to insert it into this little map right here. Keeps on going down. Oh, we have a drip. Let's insert that one into the map. Oh, we have another buy. So that's going to be building out all of these trades and creating this list. So now I'm going to hit enter again. I'm going to hit enter twice. The reason why I'm doing that, I'm kind of spacing it all out just so it's not all crunched together. It might be easier to follow along. I'm going to type in let active trades equal portfolio dot get open parentheses ticker semicolon. Gonna hit enter. We'll hit another space. If active trades equals null squiggly bracket, hit enter, portfolio dot set ticker comma square bracket trade, go to the end, do a semicolon, hit enter. We're going to go down 1, okay? So we want to be on the other side of this little squiggly bracket. We're going to type in else. Then we're going to open another squiggly bracket, hit enter, and then type in active trades dot push trade. Then semicolon. So let's explain what we just wrote right here. So pretty much what these 4 lines from 21 down to 27, what we're pretty much saying here is either create an entry for the stock or add to the existing entry which is found in that portfolio map. So right here, when it says null, if active trades are null, that's saying it's going to go into the map and it's saying, oh, we don't have a trade for, say, Apple. We've never bought Apple before. Then we're going to add a new entry into it. So this is when it's zeroed out or there's no trades. Then it knows, okay, let's go into the map and add that. If it already has it, that's our active trades. So if we already had Apple and we want to add to our position, then it's going to say, okay, we are going to add it to our map right here. We're going to put it in. And then else, that's just saying that active trades is going to push everything through. All right, guys, we're maybe halfway done with this function. I know it's a lot that we're taking in, but what I suggest you do now is go back and look to see if you have any spelling mistakes. I actually have a few. I just checked really quick. Length, I spelt wrong. So make sure you spell length right. And then you can see right here, I got toString. The S is capitalized here. But toString, the S is not capitalized. Make sure you capitalize that. And if we keep going down, again, always double check your work. Make sure you have no mistakes. Actually, I have another mistake right here, and the code was actually able to pick up on it. That's not supposed to be a regular colon. That's supposed to be a semicolon. Good. So again, double check, make sure everything's right. And if we want to kind of clean this up some more, we could hit space there, kind of separate that. Maybe you want to put the lets all together. We could kind of close this up just so it's not so much. Makes it look a little less intimidating. There you go. So if you want to pause the video, make sure your first 28 lines look identical to mine. Then you know you are good to move on to the next step. So the next step, we're going to go to 26. And we want to be on the outside of this little squiggly bracket, not the inside, the outside. We're going to hit enter. And we're actually going to maybe hit enter a couple of times. And we're going to type in if action double equals cell, go on the outside of your parentheses, squiggly bracket, hit enter, let active trades equal portfolio dot get open parentheses ticker, go on the outside of the parentheses, we want a semicolon, hit enter again. We're going to want to do a second let precision equal 5 semicolon. Going to hit enter again. We're going to explain a little bit what we did. So for those of you that already kind of know what's going on, maybe you could even guess what this if action cell is. And this is saying, hey, anytime the action says sell, we then want to look through the list. So let active trades equal portfolio.get. We want to look through the list of what we want to sell. And this is super important. Let precision equal 5. This is now going to define how many decimal places back we want to go. So what I mean there is if we go back to this, you see how we have so many decimal places back? Right now this is showing 4. It should actually show 5. The reason why we have that is if you're buying a fractional share, or maybe a drip is happening and it's buying you a fractional share, most brokers will go back either 3 or 4 decimal places. I think Robinhood goes back 5 decimal places, and TD Ameritrade goes back 4. So if you wanted to go in and, I don't know, maybe you wanted to buy Amazon, but you don't have $3,000 to buy it. So instead you buy a fraction of a share. So you're buying 0.1234 of a share. Or maybe you're buying Bitcoin. That would also be so many decimal places back. This is how your broker actually reads it. So it's super important that we know. So then when we go and sell, say we want to completely close out my Apple position. And if we go into here and go 5 decimals out, let's see, you can see right here, Apple, if I wanted to sell all the shares, I would have to sell 27.157 shares. If I close this like this, and I try to sell 27.16 shares, that's actually going to be wrong. And then I'm going to be negative, and everything's going to be off balance. Or here's a big one. Look at NVIDIA. I have 7.006 shares of NVIDIA. If I go back so many, I'm going to try to sell off 7.01, which is wrong. Or if I'm really off like that, it's going to say NVIDIA has 0 shares when it's really not. I just need to go back a couple, and then I can see, oh, I actually have 7.006. So that's what this precision formula is, or this precision line of code is. So you could determine how many decimal places you want to go back. So if your broker only does 3 or 4, if you're only ever dealing with full shares for some reason because you don't have drip or you can't buy fractional shares, you don't have to worry too much about this. But this is where the magic happens, so you need to make sure it is the right amount. So that needs to be a semicolon after the 5. We're going to hit enter, and we are going to type in if active trades space exclamation point equals null, close that parenthesis, and then open a squiggly bracket, hit enter. And before we even move on to the next line, that exclamation point and equals, that actually in coding language means does not equal. So what we're saying here is if active trades doesn't equal null, let shares to sell, and notice the T and S are capitalized, equal number, let's do a little space, number, open parenthesis, number, open parenthesis again, trade dot shares, go on the outside of that one parenthesis, now you're in between the two parentheses, dot to fixed, open parentheses again, precision. Go on the outside of those two parentheses and hit semicolon. So this line we just wrote, pretty much what this is saying is we're going to go back, look at all the trades, and figure out how many shares it wants to sell and round it off to that 5th decimal place. So that's why that precision is very important. So the next line, it's a nice little easy one. We get a little break. It's while space open parentheses shares to sell is greater than 0. So this is just doing a loop to sell in order of buys until it hits 0 for that single trade. So that's when I was in that spreadsheet doing the example of you buy 5 shares at $10, then you buy another 5 shares at say $15. Then when you do sell for that trade, if you want to sell off 3 shares, it's going to sell off those first 3 shares that were only $10. So we're going to hit enter again. Oh, actually before enter, what we want to do is open squiggly bracket, then hit enter. We're going to do shares to sell equals number, open parentheses, number again. Make sure you're capitalizing your numbers. Open parentheses, shares to sell. Go on the outside of one of the parentheses. Hit period, to fixed, precision, go on the outside of those 2 parentheses, and then we're going to do semicolon, hit enter, if space active trades dot length, make sure length is spelt right, is greater than 0. Go on the outside of the parentheses, squiggly bracket, hit enter. I'm going to scroll down a little bit just so we can see what's going on. I'm going to type in let item to sell equal active trades square bracket 0. Semicolon, hit enter again, item to sell dot shares equals number, open parentheses, number again, open parentheses, item to sell dot shares dot to fixed, open parentheses, we're going to write precision again, and semicolon. This is just kind of helps fix precision because it gets messed up while in loop. This is just so your code doesn't break or anything. It may seem pretty repetitive, but guys, we're almost done with the hard part. If you're following along and you got everything spelt right, you were doing absolutely amazing. Now we're going to move on to if, open parentheses, item to sell dot shares equals shares to sell, close parentheses, open squiggly bracket, shares to sell equals 0, semicolon, hit enter, active trades dot splice 0-1 semicolon. What these 3 lines right here are saying, sell the whole instance of the trade. So this is just kind of going through. You have 3 different instances, right? You're selling a partial, you're selling the whole, or you're selling a fraction of a share. We're just kind of mapping that all out. How many shares are we selling? Do we need to jump into the next trade set, or are we just staying in one trade set? That's what all of these are doing. It's going through the instances. You can see why this code is actually going to be pretty lengthy, even though we're more than halfway done, guys. So don't get discouraged. More than halfway done, but it has to be lengthy to do something as complex as this. I mean, it's not an easy thing where you type in a one-line function, but guys, it's going to be worth it in the end. Once you have this code, it's amazing. You really get to step up your portfolio game. What we want to now do is we want to be on the outside of this squiggly bracket. We're going to hit enter, okay? And then we could hit enter twice if you want. The amount of spaces in between, I mean, we could hit enter as many times. It's not going to really change anything. But we'll just hit enter a couple of times. And maybe before we even move on to this last set, we're almost done with this function. This is the long function. And we have one more that's not as long. It's probably half or even less than half. This is the super long function, the generate FIFO, okay? But before we move on to the very last part of this function, I think now is another good time to just kind of see where you are and double check. Make sure you have no spelling mistakes, no syntax errors. Everything looks just like this. Okay, so after you're done checking, making sure everything's right, we have less than 10 lines left in this function. What we want to do is, again, make sure you're on the outside of this squiggly bracket. So you got active trades.splice, 0 and 1, this squiggly bracket. Make sure on the outside, not the inside. You can hit enter. You can hit it a couple of times. And what we're going to type in is else if, open parentheses, item to sell dot shares is less than shares to sell. Go on the outside of the parentheses, do squiggly bracket, hit enter, shares to sell minus equals space item to sell dot shares semicolon space active trades, spell trades right, dot splice, open parentheses 0 comma 1 semicolon. So you can see we're kind of closing everything up here with all of the different scenarios. Before we move on to the next line, if you want, we could even space maybe this out and maybe space the different ifs I'm just spacing out the if. So we can see here's an if let while, then we got an if let, then we just got an if, then we got an else if. Okay, so then after that, what we want to do is, again, make sure you're on the outside of this squiggly bracket. And what we're going to want to do now is hit enter maybe twice, do else space squiggly bracket, hit enter, item to sell dot shares minus equals again, shares to sell semicolon, shares to sell equals 0 semicolon. All right, guys, we're starting to look really good here. We just have 3 more lines in this function. You see how I have these spaces? I'm gonna kind of close that space up, because what we want to do is we want to be on the outside of not this one, but this one, the third one. So after this else statement, we want to be on the outside of 1, 2, 3 of these. Okay, so down here, what you're gonna want to do is we'll hit enter twice, and we're gonna type if active trades dot length equals 0. Go on the outside of the parenthesis, hit squiggly bracket, hit enter, portfolio dot delete. Here's the magic keyword right here, delete ticker. Go on the outside of that, hit semicolon, and then what we want is, we're actually done with this. There's one last line to close this out. We want to be 4 of these little squiggly brackets down. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. So on the outside of this 4th one, hit enter. We're going to type return portfolio, semicolon, and then we are done with that one, guys. Again, another time to hit pause and make sure everything is exactly like this. We cannot have a single spelling error. Make sure all the capitalizations are where they need to be. Make sure you have all the dots where they need to be. Make sure everything's semicolon and not colon. Yeah, I don't think there's a single colon on screen right now. You just got to make sure everything is right. Make sure you have the right amount of squiggly brackets here. It is pretty intensive, but guys, the beauty is once you have this code created, that's it. You never need to go back to it. You are set with it. You don't need to touch it again, and then you can enjoy the portfolio tracker. So pause here, take that second to look over everything. All right, and after you've checked everything over, this all should be good. The only change I'm gonna make, I'm not gonna change any code. I'm just gonna change some spacing, which won't really matter in the long run, but just for organizational purposes, and if I actually have a real coder watching me, I'm just gonna kind of do, whoops, gonna hit space there. This item to sell dot shares technically belongs with this. So now our ifs are nice and separated, our else and else if. So again, make sure all this is good. We'll move on to the very last function. I'm going to hit space a couple of times just so we go down. Guys, this function is only 13 lines long. We're done with the hard part. Now this is just kind of, this is the last lap of Rainbow Road. We just got one more to go, okay? We're going to hit function, right? Because now we're creating our third function. My portfolio. This is where everything's going to be put into the actual Google Sheet. And actually, I'm not going to name it My Portfolio. It doesn't matter what you name it. If you want to, you could keep it My Portfolio. I'm going to name it My Positions. So My Positions, open quotations. We want security, comma, actions, comma, quantity, comma, price. Go on the outside of the parentheses. We're going to hit squiggly bracket, hit enter. This is the function we're putting into Google Sheets. Now we're going to do the dollar cost. Well, you'll see. I'll explain it in a second. So we're going to do let space portfolio equal generate FIFO, open parentheses, security, space, comma, space, actions, space, quantity, comma, space, price. On the outside, we're going to hit semicolon again. And this is dollar cost is telling generate portfolio to generate the map of all of your open positions and store them in portfolio. That's what that line is doing. We're going to hit enter. We'll just hit enter once. So we got to do another let. So we're going to do let return array equals square bracket, hit semicolon. So this let return array is going to calculate our average price after accounting for everything. We're going to hit enter. I'm going to type in portfolio dot for each open quotation, open parenthesis, open a second parenthesis. We're actually going to delete that one. You'll see why later. Values, just value, not values. Value space key equals greater than squiggly bracket. I'm going to hit enter. Now I'm going to do a couple of lets. So we got let shares equal 0, semicolon. Let total cost equal 0, semicolon. Let average price equal 0, semicolon. So pretty much what we did here is we're defaulting these three variables to 0. And then we're going to, the next thing we're going to create is for the ticker to loop through the list of trades. So to do that, we'll hit enter twice. I'm going to type in value.map, open parentheses, trade is equal than or greater than, whoops, outside squiggly bracket, okay? We're going to hit enter. We're going to type in shares plus equals trade dot shares, semicolon, hit enter. Total cost plus equals trade dot shares times trade dot price, semicolon. So what we just write here, well, pretty much for this shares plus equals trade shares, for each trade we add the shares for that trade to the total shares of that ticker. All right, so it's saying, oh, great, we have more shares for Apple, say. We're going to add that to our previous shares of Apple. And then this is, we add the total cost of that trade to the total cost allocated to that ticker, right? So this is, okay, great. We have maybe 10 shares of Apple. 5 of them are at $100. Another 5 are at $105. We're going to add it all together and then figure out what the average price is. So that's what that one is saying. And now what we're going to do is we're going to hit down arrow. So then we're on the outside of this squiggly bracket and then this parentheses. What we're going to want to do is hit semicolon. And what we could actually do down here, we could also hit open parenthesis, close parenthesis, not open, close parenthesis, and semicolon as well. And now we're going to be working in between these two. So you're going to go to the top one, hit enter twice if you want. Now, guys, few more lines left. I mean, 3 lines, okay? Almost done. We're going to do average price equals total cost divided by shares. Look at that. We're getting into some simple math now, right? We should all know that, or, the gist of it. We're going to hit enter. We're going to do return array dot push open parentheses, open square bracket, key, comma, shares, comma, average price. This right here, this array, this is what is pushing all of that. This is this. Ticker, shares, price. Well, key, shares, average price. Key, shares, average price. That's the array that it's creating, okay? So once we have that, we then want to do another semicolon, okay? And then, guys, we want to go on the outside of that semicolon, hit enter. We want to type return array, semicolon, and boom, guys, we are done. That is it. We have our 3 functions now. Pause the video, make sure this looks right, that you don't have any spelling errors whatsoever. And guys, you can actually see I have 2 spelling mistakes here because, like I said, I'm an awful speller. Security and value. I spelt them wrong, and it's really hard to see, but you could kind of tell that it's like a lighter, it's like gray, it's not black. So this is all black, which is good, right? You want them to be black. This is gray, so I have security spelt wrong. So let's go back. SECU, security. There we go. See that now it's black, and that's what you want. So value is also wrong. I spelled that wrong. Value, boom, now it's black. So we have that right. So make sure that all of them are black and not gray. Gray is kind of giving you, hey, you got a spelling error here. But again, check everything, make sure that's all right. And you can even go back and double check that you got nothing that's gray here, right? And it doesn't look like I have anything that's gray. Guys, I know this was very long, but if you stuck through till now, you're going to be rewarded, and it's going to be amazing. We just got to hope everything is right. So what you're going to want to do is hit save, hit run. And this is what you should have. Execution started, execution completed. Okay? If you don't have that, well, go back in the video, pause it. Here's function number 1. Function number 3. Pause and take a look. Here's the first part of function number 2. Pause it and take a look. Here's the second part of function number 2. Pause it. And then here is the first function up here. Pause it and take a look. Okay? Go back, try to figure out what the spelling error is or the syntax error. Make sure everything looks right. But guys, if you had that completed execution. Oh, and you know what, guys? I actually have one last spelling mistake right here. Security. I spelt it wrong again. Again, not the best speller. So make sure everything's spelt right. Security. The best part is, with all of this, just look through your words and make sure nothing has spelling mistakes. So you could actually look through, okay, everything that says security needs to say security. If you highlight it, security, 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 right? Security will pop up for everything. So if you have something that's maybe spelt wrong, right? And then if you highlight security, you'll say, why isn't that's not highlighted? Something's wrong. So that's another way to check. I did have a spelling error all the way up here that I didn't even realize. So I know that could be very tedious to look through your code in entirety and make sure you don't have a single word spelt wrong. But you got to do that. And that's the only reason why this wouldn't work. You have some kind of spelling mistake or some kind of syntax error. It could even be as simple as this semicolon Maybe you made it a colon by accident. So you got to double check everything, guys. But this now should be perfect. All of this down here, this function is perfect for me. This one up here, that was the easy one. That one's perfect. There's no spelling mistakes here. If we scroll down, there's no spelling mistakes here. So double check your work. Make sure you don't have a single spelling mistake. Then you want to go up here. We're going to rename this. You're going to rename it My Positions. Okay, so My Positions. Go make sure it's not spelled wrong. Hit a little space. Make sure you don't have the little red lines underneath. Great. Put it together, My Positions. Right, so now it should say mypositions.js. Hit save. X out of that, guys. We're done now. What you want to do, which I've already done, is create a history tab and a positions tab. And then in history, I'm actually just going to copy and paste all of this just so we're not here forever. So I'm going to go down the line, hit Control C. I'm going to paste that in my histories tab. I'll do Control Shift V. So there's everything, right? I'm not going to make it look pretty because this video is already going to be long enough, and the point is to get the code right. Then we're going to go into your positions tab, and what you are going to want to write at the top, we're going to have our tickers, we're going to have shares, we're going to have purchase, and then I'll even write price. So in this tab right here, A2, we're going to hit equals My Positions. So that's the code we just created. You're going to hit open parentheses. You want to then go to history, and we're going to want the first section, which is B. So history B2 to so you're going to want history exclamation point B2 regular colon, not semicolon, regular colon B, and then just type in B1000 or whatever just to get all the cells. Hit comma. Then we're going to want actions. So history exclamation point C2 to C1000, comma. We're going to want our quantity. So D1000, hit comma, and then we're going to want price. So E1000. We're going to hit enter, and if you spelt everything right, boom, there we go. Look at that. Here's all of my trades right here. We could center this if we want. And now the beauty about this, the price looks ugly. We can make that like that. Good. The beauty about all of this, remember, five decimal places back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is now we could add in simple codes like equals Google Finance, pull our ticker, comma, price. Right, now we could start to create all of these different tabs, all of these portfolio tabs. So here's all of that. Maybe then we want to figure out, what was our cost. So we want to take that and then multiply it by our purchase. So we could fill all that in. Maybe we want to figure out what our current value is. So we're going to take the current price, multiply that by our shares, fill all that in, right? So we could start creating this. So this is what everything cost. So this would be our total cost. This would be our current value. And again, I'm not making this pretty because go back to this video and you can finish this. Or you can just look here what I have. I have our price. I have our change in dollars, our cost, value, gain dollar. You could do so much now that you actually have your portfolio right here. This is the exact amount of shares I have at the exact purchase price if we were to jump onto my TD Ameritrade brokerage account. This is exactly what I have. And now what you could do is, even though this is now the uglier version, but this was the code we created, let's say I buy Target. So Target is a buy, say, 10 shares for $200, okay? And that would be, what, a total of 2,000. We go to positions. Look at that, Target. It's now added in there. Then we can drop this down if we want. right? So now target is added in there. And then if we were to sell target, sell 10 shares. We sell it completely, right? Maybe a little profit, $210. Go to positions, target's now gone. And if we were to buy target, buy, say 1 share, say it goes all the way to $300. See, now it's back for $300. So that fixed that problem. I know this looks ugly and everything, but you can make it look pretty now like that. Or we can look at the examples I had here, right? And this looks all nice and uniform. Here, let's, there we go. So everything looks nice now. But now that we have that actual function, we could create stuff like this and you could really expand on it, guys. I know that was not easy at all, but if you liked this video, guys, make sure to smash that like button. Drop any comments if you have any questions. I'll try to answer them. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check out all of my other videos so now you can start building out these awesome portfolio trackers. And guys, as always, I will see you in the next one.